Sunday from Waco, Texas. It's the Farrell Center in a battle in the Big 12. Kansas taking on Baylor. Number 9 Jayhawks on the road, taking on the number 17 Baylor Bears. And you're watching the Big 12 on ESPN. And welcome courtside, everybody. John Shambi and Jay Billis. Chris Budden will join us coming up in a bit. How about Kansas? They've dropped 2 in a row. Bill Self has only lost 3 in a row 3 times since he's been at Kansas. He's got one of the best players in the country, Jalen Wilson.
Seems like in the Big 12, every team at one time or another comes into a game desperate and angry, and that's Kansas. But one thing they are not angry with is Jalen Wilson. He's played at a National Player of the Year level. He is leading the Big 12 in scoring, over 21 points per game. He's second in the league in rebounding at over 9 per game. In the last 2 games, he scored 68 points combined, 38 against Kansas State, 30 against TCU. He's going to be the focus of the Baylor defense in this ball game. And for Baylor, they've got a trio of outstanding guards. 137 made threes among this trio. They can get their own shot just about whenever they want it. They average combined about 47 points per game. It's going to be a challenge for Kansas to put the clamps on these 3.
And remember when they won it all a couple years back, they had that great group, the threesome of Mitchell, Teague, and Jared Butler. As we get set to go, Kansas in the blue, Baylor in the white. Thamba to jump for Baylor, and KJ Adams to jump for Kansas. Full house in Waco. Tony Padilla to join Doug Sermons, Ray Natilli. Sermons tosses it in the air, and Kansas controls. Yeah, the guy to look for is Jalen Wilson. Harris drives in, finds Wilson, knocked away. And here's Cryer up ahead of the pack, and he scoops it home.
Similar start for Kansas to their game at Allen Fieldhouse against TCU, where they pitched the ball away and gave up so many opportunities to the Horned Frogs in transition.
Mentioned Jalen Wilson for Kansas. He's coming off 38 and 30-point efforts, 68 total points in the last 2 games, but both losses. Scott Drew wanted an offensive foul, and then Wilson misses the 3. Here comes Baylor.
Baylor has shot makers in this game. Good screen roll down the middle of the floor to Flo Thamba, and 2 layups to start the game for Baylor.
Thamba to the line and a chance at a 3-point play. Both Scott Drew and Bill Self in their 20th seasons at their respective schools. What a job Drew has done. Mentioned he's won a national title, resurrected this program. Jay Billis, you could make the case the last 3 years, these are the top 2 programs in college basketball.
Last 2 national champions, the last 3 years, the 2 winningest programs in college basketball in Baylor and Kansas. And we have seen some absolute fistfights in this building when Kansas and Baylor get together, and tonight should be no different.
Some pressure, and that one is taken away as Bridges kicks out. And Wilson rebounds the miss. That'd have been a big spot to knock down a 3. Baylor, the early lead, 5-zip.
Deontay George guarding Wilson, but this team switches just about every exchange, so you're going to see different players guarding everyone.
Harris off the mark, out of bounds. Baylor basketball. DeJuan Harris scoreless in his last game. In fact, his last 3 games, he's totaled just 3 points. Not that the focus is point production from DeJuan Harris, but they expect more from him than that.
Well, he's 1 of 13 in his last 3 games, and the last shot that he took, that little floater in the lane, that's a shot that Baylor wants him to take. They don't want him all the way at the rim. They certainly don't want to give up any open 3-point opportunities, but if they can force him into those floaters, that's best case scenario.
3 off the mark for Adam Flagler.
Kansas really wants to get downhill, play out of the middle of the floor, and get into the lane to be able to make plays.
Grady Dick, catch and shoot. It's a 3. Kansas on the board.
And Grady Dick really needed that one. His last 2 games, he was 3 of 16 combined from 3-point range, 7 of 26 overall. And he is a great shooter.
Yeah, Bill Self says the best young shooter he's ever coached. Flagler gets the three.
And that's what scares you if you're Bill Self. You get KJ Adams on Flagler in a switch, just gives him a rhythm dribble and pulls up from three. You're worried about the drive, and he drills one on you.
Yeah, McCullough takes it to the basket. Bill Self in the shoot-around talked to Kevin McCullough about taking it aggressively at the basket, taking it to score.
Well, they need him to be a better scorer. I mean, he's an outstanding defender. I think he's Kansas's best defender. The best on-ball defender is DeJuan Harris, but overall, I think it's McCullough. He was a semifinalist for the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year award last year when he was at Texas Tech. Now, Kansas doing something similar. They're basically switching 1 through 5.
Bridges tracks down the miss, and they'll reset.
And Baylor's a good offensive rebounding team. You know, they get about 35% of their own misses, and a lot of them are long rebounds. That means the guards can get in there and rebound as well.
And a foul on Kansas.
KJ Adams is an interior player, but he switches out onto Flagler. He's guarding him right now. They get it back to him, and he's got to give him some space because he's worried about the drive. His hands are down, and Flagler just rises up to shoot that rhythm three, and he's such a good shooter, and he can get him from anywhere. He leads the conference in three-point percentage at 45%.
You mentioned offensive rebounding. They consistently have been great on the offensive glass, number 9 in offensive rebound percentage in the NCAA. Oh, there's a rejection from Adams, and then a loose ball tipped back. Cryer collects.
Well, Flo Thamba did a great job of not giving up on that play and knocking it back out to L.J. Cryer.
Oh. Cryer buries a three. Jay, you talked off the air about the idea the trio of guards all can get their own shot.
They can get their own shot. They are excellent cutters, and they use screens very well. I mean, they could combined hit 15 threes in this game. That would not be out of the question.
A foul on Keontae George, his first. Grady Dick has gone to the bench for Kansas with 2 fouls. So that bears watching. Langston Love will check in for Baylor. Yeah, the freshman George will grab a seat. There's Grady Dick, and there's Langston Love checking in.
You might see Kansas try to run something here for Jalen Wilson, especially if he can get down off a screen, maybe even into there, right in the middle. Good help by Baylor to take that away.
Good feed, and Wilson got loose for the easy layup.
With the movement that Kansas gets, Bill Self wants his team to not try to operate off the first or second side of the floor, but if they can get it to the third side, they think they can get some good things. But the ball's got to move, and you know, there's so many turnovers in that game against TCU, and they led to a lot of runouts for the Horned Frogs.
Cryer probing, gets it, and puts it off the glass and in.
L.J. Cryer had 28 points against UCLA. He can score, and if he can get to the rim too, that's going to be offensive.
And it is on Pettiford. Baylor the early lead. It's their under 16 timeout. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Phillips 66, proud sponsor of Big 12 basketball.
Welcome back to Waco. Baylor freshman Keontae George could have played pretty much anywhere in the country, but it came down to 2 schools, these 2 schools, Baylor and Kansas. He said what it came down to at the very end was Baylor felt like family. Some of the coaching staff he had known since he was in the 7th grade. It's also close to home. I talked to his mom before the game about what that meant to be able to play just an hour down the road. She said, when he told me, I started crying. Actually, I waited until he walked away, and then I started crying. But to know that I could go to every game and that he made that decision on his own was every mother's dream.
Jay's been one of the best freshmen in all the land.
He leads Baylor in scoring, 3-point field goals, and free throws made and attempted, and he's a pro. I mean, Keontae George has game, and he's getting better and better. I mean, he had 32 points against West Virginia, put up 27 against Texas Tech, shooting 40% from 3 in Big 12 play. I mean, he's a legit star caliber guard.
They're two of the top freshmen in the country in this game with Keontae George and Grady Dick.
Baylor running its offense out high. That's going to give lanes to cut and lanes to drive. Now they go into a little box set and an elevator play. Pretty well done there by Pettiford to get through that closing elevator door.
Kick out, Bridges. The West Virginia transfer buries a three.
Well, he had such a big game against Oklahoma. Jalen Bridges hitting those big threes toward the end of the game. His last 5 games, Jalen Bridges has been outstanding.
Wilson off the mark, the Bears the other way.
You know, Jalen Wilson got off to a tough start against Kansas State. He was 0 for his first 5, wound up with 38.
Langston Love gathers in the rebound. Can't finish. He got whacked across the bridge of his nose. McCullough put it on the floor and had it taken away.
Baylor went after that ball, each defender with both hands. That wasn't a slap away, that was a grab. Kansas got a switch. Now Pettiford guarding Flo Thamba inside. Just needs to duck him in.
Bridges inside, McCullough pulls it away. Kansas. And McCullough feeds Jalen Wilson, who got bumped. Baylor the early lead, and how about our Big Ten ACC Super Tuesday doubleheader? It begins with Ohio State and Illinois at 7, and then UNC and Syracuse. That's coming up on Tuesday at 9 Eastern. Both games right here on ESPN and the app.
Carolina going against that Syracuse 2-3 zone. And they're going, Syracuse is dealing with one of the best offensive rebounders, not only in the country, but now the all-time leading rebounder at North Carolina, Armando Bacot. In his last game, passed Tyler Hansbrough as the all-time rebounder in Tar Heel history.
Kansas in a scoring drought, close to 2.5 minutes.
Kansas needs to touch the paint, Booth. They got to get the ball into the paint. Right now, they're just operating around the fringes.
Three from Pettiford wouldn't go, and a rebound pulled down by Josh Ojanwuna.
With these switches, they're going to take on KJ Adams any chance they can.
Flagler step through, step back, and knocks it down.
He can get his shot anytime he wants. A 3-level scorer, and that step back is a staple of his game. Adam Flagler is a stud.
Baylor leading it by 11. Jay Billis, Adam Flagler showing off real good footwork and a nifty scoring touch.
Well, he gets the screen and a switch, and when he gets the matchup he wants, he knows that he can take KJ Adams. Just takes him down, and then a nice little pivot and fall away jumper. He's got every shot in the book. He's not a tall player. He's only about 6'2" or 6'3". But he's one of the best passers in the league. He averages about 5.5 assists. That's 3rd in the league to Marquise Noel, and then DeJuan Harris, who averages about 6.5.
MJ Rice has checked in for Kansas. Their prize freshman. His minutes have been limited. They still really think he'll be a very good player. Adams, kick out. Harris, shot clock winding down. And loose ball, out of bounds. It'll be Kansas basketball as Caleb Lohner not able to save it.
And Kansas has not really gotten any real paint touches where they're getting into the lane and drawing multiple defenders where they can kick it out. And this is a team that wants to get downhill, draw help, and then play off that help. And if you can get 2 to play 1, that means one of your teammates is open. But when DeJuan Harris caught that ball, he didn't catch it to shoot it and had to settle for that difficult floater, and that's what Baylor wants him to take.
Lohner knocked away the pass intended for Wilson.
Lohner just reached across the body of Wilson and knocked it away. Another turnover for Kansas.
Love inside, defended well by Wilson. Out of bounds, Baylor basketball. Langston Love amidst last year with an ACL injury.
I thought that went off a love, but we'll see right here. But see how much deeper those paint touches are for Baylor. You know, Baylor's getting further into the paint and really putting a lot of pressure on the rim and a lot of pressure on the Kansas defense.
Deontay George, the freshman, going to work. And a follow there from Ojanwuna. It's a 9-0 Baylor run.
They just ghosted out of that ball screen, opened up a driving lane. KJ Adams has to come over. That opens up the offensive glass. There's nobody there to rotate down and block them out. That's why you want those downhill drives.
And Wilson answers with a 3.
He's been playing at National Player of the Year level. I think Zach Edey of Purdue is the clubhouse leader for that award, but right behind him, you'd put Jalen Wilson, maybe Brandon Miller of Alabama. And nobody's played better the last week or so than Jalen Wilson has played for Kansas.
And a 3 there from Cryer.
Boy, the last 2 games, Kansas has seen some opposing shots go in. I mean, TCU hit like 13 of their first 15.
And MJ Rice there to collect and put it in. Yeah, to the TCU point, Jamie Dixon's team came into that game as one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the conference, and they came and knocked them down at Allen Fieldhouse.
It was ridiculous. I mean, Chuck O'Bannon looked like Vinnie Johnson in that game.
Love a good microwave reference. Who went to Baylor, by the way.
Exactly. And we have to get away from microwave. Now it's got to be like an air fryer.
Right. Out of bounds. You know, Jay, I just bought an air fryer.
It's the newer technology. Microwave technology is totally outdated. But there's a ghost screen, and you get it all the way to the rim, draws help, and then the offensive glass wide open because you tried to block the shot.
Back in Waco, Baylor by 11 last 3 years. These two programs have won the last 2 national championships, and they have combined the top 2 records of all the Power 5 conferences. Baylor winning it a couple of seasons ago. Kansas last year. Bill Self with his 2nd national title. And again, the last 2 national titles, this is quite a rivalry that it's turned into. I don't know that you would have seen this coming a dozen years ago, but Scott Drew, Bill Self, Baylor, Kansas, 2 of the top programs, arguably the 2 top programs in college basketball.
Well, it's really remarkable the job that Scott Drew has done here at Baylor. Baylor's beaten Kansas. Good play by Yesufu there to get that steal. He really read that very well.
Wilson barrels his way to the basket and puts it home.
One of the few transition baskets for Kansas, and it's because they got the turnover. It's now 5-1 in turnovers in favor of Baylor.
That first time Baylor had turned it over here tonight.
But Baylor has beaten Kansas 8 times in its history. Scott Drew's been the coach for 7 of those wins. I mean, a remarkable turnaround.
Inside, out of bounds, and it belongs to Kansas.
And right now for Kansas, because Grady Dick is on the bench for Kansas with 2 fouls in this first half. And he's their best shooter. He might be the best shooter in the entire league. And that's saying something because it's a league of good shooters. But outside of Jalen Wilson, where does Kansas go for offense? I think Kevin McCullough's one of them. You know, trying to thread the needle on a backdoor play. And that's turnover number 6 for Kansas. And what that means, Boog, is that Baylor's getting more shot attempts. Like Baylor's had like 20 shot attempts to Kansas's 11, whatever it is. But I mean, you turn the ball over, it means you don't get a shot. You don't get a chance for an offensive rebound, and you don't give yourself a chance to get fouled. Those are 3 really good things you're giving up by turning the ball over.
Yet again, Baylor makes it difficult at this end of the court because they're so good at grabbing their own misses.
And a lot of those are long rebounds.
Right there, Flagler hangs and hits.
Now, what do? Sometimes you play good defense, and the offense is just better. And Adam Flagler has a better offense and really good defense quite a bit.
Bridges came over and some contact. They got the foul on Thamba. 2nd on Flo Thamba.
Just the baseline drive by McCullough. It looked like Thamba got him from behind. Once you're behind a player, he gets his body and shoulders past you. You're not in a legal guarding position anymore, so contact is going to be a foul. But that's one area where Kansas has been a little bit different this year. I mean, Kansas has been outshot and outscored from the free throw line on the season. That is not the norm for Bill Self and the Jayhawks.
Ernest Uday has checked in for Kansas. And McCullough back at the stripe. The Texas Tech transfer. Guy who does a little bit of everything.
And he got every piece of that rim. Now Grady Dick back into the ball game for Kansas. And I think Baylor should go right at him. Just run something that puts him in a position to have to guard one-on-one.
Cryer with Grady Dick on him. Flagler now. Shot clock under 10. Loose ball. And a foul on Kansas.
You know, that shot hit short and went almost straight down, and Keontae George right there to pick it up off the ground. But Flagler got the switch. He had Uday on him and just sized him up. He just missed the shot, but typical of most of the year, Baylor is right around there for the offensive rebound.
George knocks down the first free throw. Number 6 overall player in the ESPN 100 among incoming freshmen.
A little full-court pressure here from Baylor. Kansas has to be strong with the ball. They got a lot of balls deflected and thrown away against the TCU pressure in Allen Fieldhouse on Saturday. Here comes that middle of the floor ball screen action.
Shot clock under 10. Harris to the corner. McCullough. Out of bounds, Baylor basketball.
That was a really good pass by DeJuan Harris. When the action is in the middle of the floor, that really spreads things out. And those corners can be open when help defenders pull in just a little bit. Baylor runs some handoff action. They'll get a matchup here.
George 3 off the mark and a foul on the floor. And they get Ernest Uday with that foul, the freshman from Orlando.
Just couldn't get the block out on Josh Ojanluna. And oftentimes when Baylor's taking the ball out of bounds, it's not the first cutter that gets you, it's the second cutter.
Bridges step back. And McCullough rebounds the miss. Kansas down by 11. Under 8 to go here first half. John Shambi, Jay Billis, and Chris Budden.
A really good switch. When Grady Dick was coming off that screen, Adam Flagler switched up and took that away. That was really good by Adam Flagler.
Remember that? Welcome back to Waco. 11 months ago, Jonathan Chamu-Chachua suffered a devastating knee injury on this court. But what a sight to see in pregame earlier today. Chamu-Chachua warmed up with his team for the very first time since that injury last February. And guys, right now there is no timetable for when he could be back playing basketball, but given where he was just last February, what a beautiful sight to see him out there.
Amazing story when you're talking about a young man that suffered a gruesome knee injury, including some nerve damage and multiple surgeries. And here he was out there warming up with his teammates. Pretty clear he's going to play again.
Well, I certainly hope so, because not only what an unbelievable young man, but such an outstanding player. I mean, his energy, the way he runs the floor, he's a great defender, offensive rebounder. He just changes the game anytime he's on the floor.
Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in 2022.
Baylor does such a great job of using the entire floor.
George pull up, got it.
Big time, just refused the ball screen, took it the other way. The ball screen was for him to go left. He just crossed over and got into a pull-up jumper. I mean, that guy is an NBA player.
And Grady Dick gets bumped, and that's on Bridges.
I think you have to make him use this ball screen. But just a terrific crossover dribble guarded by Jalen Wilson, and got to his spot, pulled up beautifully, and he shoots the ball from deep with such ease. He just got an unbelievable stroke.
Number 7 to go first half. Baylor has been in control. McCullough. Shot clock under 10. Wilson to his buddy McCullough, lost the handle. And they'll go possession arrow, and it belongs to Baylor. Folks, the SEC Big 12 Challenge is this Saturday. 5 games featured on ESPN and the app. Auburn, West Virginia tipped the day off in Morgantown at noon. And Alabama, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Baylor, Texas, Tennessee. And then it's Kansas and Kentucky. They'll cap off the night at Rupp Arena.
Boy, that Alabama team, I don't know that any team in the country is playing better than Alabama right now. And Caleb Lohner just took out Joseph Yesufu in the backcourt with a screen. Nobody called it out, and Yesufu got his bell rung.
Flagler to Cryer. And that one was halfway down and rolled out.
I think that touched the inside of the net before it came out.
Grady Dick. And George pulls down the rebound.
But Kansas does not have many offensive rebounds. They've had a lot of turnovers, and as a result, the shot attempts are lopsided in favor of Baylor. And that's unsustainable for Kansas if you want to win a game on the road.
Dick catch and shoot, gets that one.
Boy, how quick did he get that off? That never came down below the catch spot. He caught that at about where it says Kansas on his jersey. And instead of going down for some rhythm, that ball went right up into a shooting motion.
And right side, Cryer answers. And the lead back to 11. L.J. Cryer with 13.
They spread you out so much, and with their shot-making ability, you're going to start seeing shot fakes and drives, because Kansas is going to have to really press up on Cryer, Flagler, and George.
Wilson buries a 3.
He is starting to feel it. 23 of 46 from the field his last 2 games. 38 against Kansas State, 30 against TCU. And that is red hot.
Yeah, we've seen teams defend Kansas all over Grady Dick from 3 and letting everybody else shoot it. Right there, Cryer, another triple. L.J. Cryer knocking it down. And the Bears leading the Jayhawks with under 5 to go first half. Baylor by 11. John Chumby, Jay Billis, and Chris Budden. What a versatile offense for the Baylor Bears. And we talk about those guards and their ability to knock down shots.
Yeah, and you have to really communicate. L.J. Cryer comes down, sets a little screen, then he just comes off another screen, and he's wide open. Miscommunication between Grady Dick and Kevin McCullough. And L.J. Cryer just wide open for that shot. He's not going to get an easier or more wide open shot in a game of horse. And Bill Self called that timeout. He was livid with his team's defense. I mean, it's one thing when, and they can do this, when Flagler, Cryer, or George hit a shot open, forget it. And now a little zone, a switch of defense for it's a 1-1-3.
The lob and the attempt broken up by Langston Love, who was able to swoop in and knock it away from McCullough.
And in this defense, Baylor will bring the wings up, and at times they're going to have some opportunities through the corner, and Kansas trying to take advantage of that, but a terrific recovery by Love to knock that away from McCullough.
Grady Dick gets fouled.
Good shot fake by Grady Dick, but he made that last one on a catch and shoot. And the defense alert to that. He gave a shot fake and they went flying by. He got a foul out of it. That's a smart play by Grady Dick. Yeah, Boog, you see a lot of shooters. I'm not sure I can remember a shooter, especially as a freshman, that has as pure of a catch and release, where they don't bring the ball down, don't dip, don't try to get rhythm first. I mean, he's as fully prepared to shoot the ball when he catches it as any freshman I can remember.
Grew up a huge Jayhawks fan. Went to Sunrise Christian, and Bill Self has one of the best young shooters in all college basketball.
Baylor running that wheel action where they have a couple of staggered screens in a row. Now got a switch.
Oh. Pryor knocks down another. He had the quickness advantage on Adams.
Well, they're just crushing him on these ball screens whenever they get a switch. You know, both Flagler and Pryor are going right at the switch. They're getting the matchup they want out of it and just cooking those guys.
And Wilson answers. Pryor has 19, including 5 of 7 from 3.
He is hot. I mean, he put up 18 against Texas Tech. He was 2 of 11 in his last game against Oklahoma, but clearly has a short memory.
Loose ball and out of bounds. Oh, Jonwuna was stepping on the baseline. Turnover, Kansas ball. When we come back, it's Baylor by 10.
Fonz and coach in studio coming up on what promises to be a Virginia Tech snap their 7-game skid, but not without some controversy. Fonz, when you watch Baylor, what do you see?
Well, you're seeing the second most efficient offense in the nation, and why they have the 3 best offensive backcourt players in the country. LJ Cryer is 19.
The ease of their offense in terms of the quality of their shot in relation to Kansas's right now is an issue. 87% of Kansas's points come from the starters. Right now, only 3 of those starters have scored.
I thought we might see a little bit of this here at
No,
halftime.
yeah, that'll happen. Oh, whoa, no, that's a block.
38-28. LJ Cryer matched a career high with 5 3-pointers in the game. He's got 19, 3:25 to go in the first half.
He's just been in attack mode every time he gets a switch that's in his favor. And Baylor's done an expert job at picking the matchup against Kansas's switching man-to-man defense and going right after it. And that's easy to say, but you have to have elite shot makers in order to do it. And Baylor's got those elite shot makers.
The lead is 10 as Wilson collects and then gets some space but can't hit the jumper. And Grady Dick does a nice job rebounding. Adams can't hit. And it's Baylor basketball.
And Baylor has more offensive rebounds than they do defensive rebounds. And that's a team that's been making a lot of shots, but you give them second opportunities, and that makes them even more dangerous.
It's been a constant during Scott Drew's tenure. Good offensive rebounding teams. McCullough with the takeaway. And then McCullough gets fouled. They get Keontae George on that last one. That's his second.
Just after the turnover. And that'll put Kansas at the line. You know, Kansas, you feel, if you're a Kansas fan, you feel almost fortunate to only be down 10 with a chance to cut it to 8 here. And if you're calling that TCU game, they get down as much as 23 or 21 in the first half, I think it was, and they cut it to 10 at halftime. And you had the feeling that, okay, Kansas is within striking distance, and then TCU just ran away from them in the second half. Kansas only shot 32% in the second half.
McCullough knocks them both down. He's part of a group of Jayhawks with Texas ties. This Kansas team has a Texas flavor to it. Both Wilson and McCullough, along with Adams, The number of family members in attendance at this game.
One little 1-4 low. Now it's Flagler going one-on-one against Jalen Wilson. The clock is going down. He's got to do something now with 5.
Flagler goes to work to the corner. Lohner. Kansas in transition. Bounce pass. And then Grady Dick wide open.
Flagler just cleared out KJ Adams.
And Baylor turns it over back the other way. 1:48 to go. The Bears leading it by 8. Timeout. LJ Cryer, Jay Billis has been the story on the offensive end for Baylor.
LJ Cryer's got 19 points in this game, and you know, the pull-up jumpers, the rhythm threes, it doesn't matter where he's been on the floor. He has been dead eye from the opening tap. And that's the last one going in. But, you know, Boog, with this last minute 48 of the first half, this is a really important period as the half goes down for Kansas. They've got the arrow. They get the ball to start the second half if there's not a tie-up. You know, if they can get a score, a stop, and a score, all of a sudden we got a ball game, and they've got an opportunity in the second half to get a little silent run going.
Cryer, the kid from Katy, Texas. A look at Shot Chart. It's powered by Shot Tracker.
Well, that percentage is hard to beat. 78%, 7 of 9.
Oh, you break
from
the
field.
Billis. I like
I
that.
can read.
I'll tell you what.
Most people move on after they learn to read, but not me.
Be careful out on that limb. That's a good percentage, 78 from 3. I like it. When did I become Ted Baxter? Yesufu short on that shot. Lohner with the rebound.
I can't imagine that's the shot that Bill Self wanted out of the timeout.
Flagler looking for space. Oh my goodness, Adam Flagler able to beat Wilson. The small on the big, and he put it home. He'll go to the line.
And he did it without a switch. You know, Caleb Lohner came over, did a little blur, ghost screen, but Kansas decided not to switch it. And just got that 45-degree angle drive to the basket. And got a little bump. He got his shoulders past Wilson and still kept his eyes on the rim and made that shot. And Kansas with an opportunity to come closer. They don't get the shot they want. Then Baylor comes down, gets a layup and a foul, and extends this lead.
Well, at the outset, Jay, you talked about the trio of guards for Baylor, and they've been on point so far tonight, led by LJ Cryer with 19. Flagler's got 10.
These guys never seem to get tired. They play a ton of minutes and don't seem to ever get worn down.
Wilson jumper, got it. Jalen Wilson with 14.
He's just in a great rhythm. And he carries himself like the best player. His body language is so good. But he's scoring in every aspect. He can go down into the post. He's great in transition. You know, now he's hitting these pull-up jumpers and he's hitting threes. He's really improved his perimeter shooting.
Foul on Adams, and it'll be a 1-and-1 spot.
Jalen Wilson has gone through the NBA draft process a couple years in a row, and I think he got a lot of feedback about improving his shooting consistency, and he's taken that to heart because his shot has improved, what, 10 percentage points from 3 from last year to this year. And he's taken a lot of challenge shots because he has to, but they're still good shots for him. And leading the league in scoring has been fantastic all year long.
Bidding to become the 3rd player under Bill Self to average 20 or more points per game, joining Wayne Simeon and Frank Mason.
Now they're going to look to post Wilson here on Flagler.
And they get a foul inside. Fans wanted a travel. And Ray Natilli said, nope, that was a bump on LJ Cryer.
KJ Adams bobbled the ball there And Bill Self, I think, was looking and going, all you had to do was get it into Wilson. The whole play was designed to get Wilson the post up off the switch.
Jalen Bridges will check back in. Lohner will sit. 6.4 on the game clock left here in the first half. If Adams makes this, Kansas will draw within 7.
There's still plenty of time with 6 seconds to go in the first half for Baylor to get the ball down court and get a good shot.
Adams gets them both. Joseph Yesufu is a guy who's gotten bounced around a little bit. He is built kind of like a fire hydrant. He's just got knocked around a little bit. Pettiford checking back in. So here we go. Cryer with the basketball. Cryer at the basket. And it won't fall, and that is the way the first half comes to a close. And Jay Billis, Kansas got to feel fortunate right now.
Just down 7, but what an outstanding performance by the Baylor guards, especially L.J. Cryer in that first half.
Scott Drew saying to Ray Natilli, wasn't that a foul at the other end? Baylor leading it 41-34 at the break. And let's send it over to Chris Budd with Scott Drew.
Coach, 19 for Cryer coming off an off shooting night. What'd you see out of him early?
Well, I mean, we did a good job getting him the ball. He was on fire, but our defense, we were really good early. We started making shots. We let up. We got to get back to guarding a lot better. They got great players, but we can't give them easy ones. We gave them too many easy ones.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
41-34 at the break. Baylor leading number 9 Kansas. Time for the Jeep halftime report. We send it to the studio. Kevin Connors, LaFonso Ellis, Seth Greenberg.
All right, Boog, what a shoot.
Go back to Big Monday here in Waco, Texas. Chip and Joanna Gaines and that guy on the right. 41-34. Hey, there's me. John Shambi and that guy, Jay Billis. Chris Budden will join us coming up. Sorry about that.
That's quite it's quite an issue when you're talking to a guy who actually does work around the house and you do absolutely nothing.
It's fair. That's fair. All right, L.J. Cryer was sensational in the first half as we take a look at the Capital One rewarding performance.
Well, L.J. Cryer was spectacular in that first half. He went 7 of 10 from the field, knocked down 5 of his 7 3-point attempts. He had 19 points in that first half. And Baylor, they wound up shooting 44%, but they shot 44% from 3, 7 of 16. And remember, Cryer had 5 of those 7. And Kansas is going to have to do a better job getting a hand up and making it difficult for both Cryer and Flagler. But the Jayhawks, even though they turned the ball over, they gave up a ton of offensive rebounds, they're still not only in this game, they shot 47% when they didn't turn it over. And Kansas has a good opportunity to get back in this game and win a road game.
We get set for second half. Nice suit, young man.
I like the mullet, too. Business up front, party in the back for that young fella.
L.J. Cryer leading Baylor in that first half. Flagler with 10. Jalen Wilson with 14 first half points to pace Kansas. And for the Jayhawks, one of the things we've seen when they're at the offensive end, you guard Grady Dick at the three-point line, and then teams are letting other guys shoot threes, so somebody else is going to have to step up in that department.
Well, and also Grady Dick's going to have to be more aggressive in cutting and driving to the basket and playing off of that shooting ability. You know, you can face guard him, take that shot away, but that doesn't mean he can't score in other ways. And then I think DeJuan Harris has to become more involved, because when he's aggressive offensively, it opens up passing opportunities for the second leading assist guy in the league.
Harris with the basketball here. Adams, little ball fake, goes at Thamba, wouldn't fall, loose ball, out of bounds, and it's Baylor basketball.
Well, Kansas looked like they made a concerted effort to not just settle for the first or the second side of the floor, but try to get it even to the third side. And the ball movement in the first half for Kansas was not crisp. You know, they really didn't make the Baylor defense move like they would want to. And you give credit to Baylor, they made some of those passes difficult. A lot of this is what you call false motion. You know, they can try to get a switch, and then you have some sort of ball screen action.
Shot clock under 10, Flagler. And Wilson the rebound. Here come the Jayhawks. Wilson. Double teamed and trapped. Needs some help. Feeds inside, and Adams the throwdown. Good find.
And a great job by Jalen Wilson when Flo Thamba came over on the baseline side and double teamed him. You know, he didn't panic. He didn't shrink from it. He just pivoted around, then KJ Adams got to the front of the rim. And that's what every big guy needs to do in a baseline drive. Get to the front of the rim and make yourself available.
George flips it off the glass. It comes right to Flagler. And inside the putback for Keontae George.
Kevin McCullough was right there with Flo Thamba, and Thamba kept it alive. You know, when you can't grab it on the offensive end, keep it alive, and a teammate has a chance to get it.
Harris able to turn the corner and spins it off the glass for two.
Kansas ran a lot of action in the middle of the floor in the first half. Now the action is on the side. You know, KJ Adams set a ball screen for DeJuan Harris. He was able to turn the corner, get right in the middle of the lane, and finish.
George with that last deuce for Baylor. He's just 2 for 8 from the floor. Pryor hesitating, working on the bigger Wilson. I should say Flagler. Flagler step back. Thamba the rebound, and a foul on the floor. Foul on Kansas.
Well, Baylor has just been dominating the offensive glass. A lot of long rebounds. And look, the double team comes, but he didn't shrink from it. Kept pivoting around and got right around and underneath. And KJ Adams right in the middle of the lane. Then Harris able to turn the corner, get by Adam Flagler, and Keontae George just a little bit late getting there, try to draw the charge or make it difficult around the rim.
Pryor going to work against Adams, flips that one up short.
Another rebound.
Loose ball, and eventually it ends in the hands of Grady Dick. Kansas trying to chip away at a 5-point deficit.
And Baylor has become nothing but a jump shooting team in this second half. It's been all ISO ball. Nothing going toward the rim at all.
Pull up wouldn't fall for Grady Dick.
See if Baylor runs something to get into the lane.
And Flagler absorbs the contact from Jalen Wilson.
Just that angle went right into his body. Jalen Wilson was just sideways to him and never got 2 feet on the floor facing the ball handler. That's the definition of legal guarding position. So any real contact there is going to be a foul.
Gets the first. 6-point Baylor lead. John Ciampi, Jay Billis, and Chris Budden from Waco, Texas, a Farrell Center, and 2 of the top teams in college basketball. Arguably the top 2 programs in college basketball the last 3 years. The last 2 national champs, and the year we didn't have the tournament, they were both going to be 1 seeds. Good find. McCullough had it knocked away, and they get the foul on Flagler.
Jalen Wilson has made 2 really good passes to start this second half. The first one to Adams for the dunk. Then when he drew 2 defenders, they lost Kevin McCullough down below the basket. And that was a terrific find, as you say, from Jalen Wilson.
McCullough and Wilson, good friends since they were about 14, 15 years old. And I asked Jalen Wilson what his recruiting pitch was to McCullough. He said, come here if you want to win a national title.
became friends after one of them slid into the other DMs. And there's a little trash talking between the two of them because they would play Fortnite when they would get home from basketball games. And just wanted you to know that Wilson 0-2 against McCullough in Fortnite, but Wilson on the court 2-0 when they played on the court.
George off the mark. Got to keep those Fortnite records tight.
What a
Grady
great
Dick,
fake.
good ball fake, goes at the basket, puts it in and one.
Well, we talked about that earlier. Grady Dick, because of his ability to shoot the ball, when he puts a shot fake on, he's got such great shot credibility. You're going to bite on that fake, and George leaves his feet. Thamba a little late getting there. And that's what Grady Dick needs to incorporate into his game more, because he can finish at the rim. He's a good athlete, and he's so skilled. I thought Keontae George made a bit of a mistake on the offensive end when he got the switch and had Grady Dick guarding him on the left wing. You know, don't settle for the jumper there. Drive him. You know, they've got to take him on and attack that matchup.
Grady Dick knocks it down. He's got 11, and this is a two-point game.
Like Kansas, unsurprisingly, given Bill Self and his track record, but this is a resilient basketball team. You know, coming off a pretty good beating they took at the hands of TCU. Down in the first half, and they never hung their heads. They just kept fighting.
To the corner, and Love traveled. 45-43, 15:51 to go here in Waco. Back here, stand up for cancer right before the start of the second half, and there in the middle, Fred Kortelbaum, who told us earlier today when we visited with him, he lost his father this morning. And so today, a tough day for Coach Q, thinking about his dad, but we asked him about going back, and he said, nope, Dad would have wanted me to be here and get the W.
Said the last thing he said to him, his father couldn't speak. He held up 3 fingers, and the 3 fingers in the form of a W. He wanted him to get the win. And Fred Kortelbaum, all the best to Fred and his family on the passing of his father. But Fred Kortelbaum is one of the best human beings you've ever met in your life. And you talk about a positive person. I mean, he was talking all about gratitude, you know, being grateful for being a caregiver for his father over the last year. And his father was very proud of Fred.
Wilson from deep, got it, and Kansas has the lead.
And Kansas has the lead because now they are touching the paint. They're getting the ball into the lane and collapsing the defense and playing out of it. And Baylor's got to make some adjustments. How do they get into the paint? Great play by Grady Dick to take away that back cut by Jalen Bridges.
Grady Dick flips it up, loose ball, out of bounds, and it stays with Kansas. And now Doug Sermon's going to go over, and they'll change the call. It will be Baylor basketball.
When Kansas, after all the difficulties in the first half with turnovers and with L.J. Cryer going off on them, 3 defenders in the lane guarding the ball for Baylor, and a great kick out to Jalen Wilson for that step-in 3. And right now, Kansas is getting any shot they want, and Kansas defensively has made Baylor settle for jump shots. And the Bears are what, 1 of 8 in the second half? They've dropped down below 40% for the game. And right now, their offense seems to be searching.
Langston Love searching, spinning and shooting, and one! Langston Love, and they get the foul on Adams.
Got the switch, and Love with the right-hand drive against Adams. Turned around. Adams just got to make him shoot over. I mean, you just can't reach in there. You know, the tendency is to try to play the ball, instead just wall up and make Langston Love take a tough fall-away jumper over you.
Langston Love, a big-time recruit. He's getting his first chance to play this year after tearing his ACL last season. Scott Drew urging on the sellout crowd here in Waco. Looks
like Baylor going back to that 1-1-3, and there's the lob. When the wings are up, that corner is open, and there was no pressure on the ball to take away vision for that Grady Dick lob out of the right corner.
Inside, Cryer got walled off, hits Flagler for a three.
And John, that is a different kind of three for Baylor because of the penetration. All of a sudden, 3 Kansas defenders on the ball and a wide open shooter on the perimeter. That's the kind of shot that Baylor wants.
First 3 of the second half for the Bears. Harris, pass intercepted. Bridges a big rebound. Inside, scoring.
Boy, it looked like Bridges got that elbow up, and Bill Self wanted the offensive foul. So take a look at the left elbow from Jalen Bridges after that great offensive rebound. Watch him on Grady Dick. He just dropped that shoulder, and Dick it looked like he was inside of that area, but that doesn't mean there can't be excessive offensive contact, but a great play by Jalen Bridges.
Lead back to 6. A 6-0 Baylor run. Offensive foul.
I'll give Langston Love credit. I think the officials thought that just anytime you lower that shoulder, even if the contact, you think that the contact wasn't enough for a guy to go straight down on his back, you lower that shoulder, 99% of the time, the officials are going to call that an offensive foul. Here's the switch again.
Flagler not able to hit, and a foul underneath. That's on Grady Dick. Nope, it's not. It's on McCullough.
Kansas having difficulty getting blockouts on these perimeter shots. And a lot of times those shots wind up with long rebounds. And watch McCullough, he just goes right into Flo Thamba. I mean, that wasn't a blockout as much it was on the line of scrimmage. And he went into him with his arm bars.
Oh, they just got the flop on Flagler for falling after the shot. That's what took place there. So Grady Dick knocks down the free throw. Do you like how that rule has been handled this year?
Well, officials have handled it fine. I don't like the rule. I think if somebody falls down when they're taking a shot, what's the problem? I mean, there's some feeling that needs to be out of the game because it's trying to fool the official. Well, just don't get fooled. If there's no contact, don't blow the whistle.
That one knocked down by Love. Timeout on the court. Chip and Joanna loving it. Baylor leading it by 8.
Shiplap for everyone.
Kansas-Kentucky game. Bill Self and company. Last year, it was Kentucky going into Allen Fieldhouse and lighting them up pretty good.
Well, Kansas is a really good team. Kentucky, since the second half against Georgia, I mean, they had a great win at Tennessee. They still shot in the 30s percentage-wise. But you wonder what the answer will be to Oscar Tshiebwe for the Jayhawks. They just don't have anybody to be able to guard him. It's going to have to be a team effort to try to slow him down. And I'll tell you what, with the way Baylor's offensive rebounded against Kansas, you wonder what Oscar Tshiebwe is going to be thinking.
Yep. Grady Dick goes to the goal. Left hand is good.
I give that young man a lot of credit. In this second half, he's come out and he's been a strong driver. That's the second drive, first from the right side, then from the left with the left hand and layup. He's showing more than just being a shooter in this second half. And thus far in the second half, L.J. Cryer has not been able to get going. Now he got the switch with K.J. Adams on him again.
And Cryer able to hang and hit his first points of the second half.
And that's the matchup when he gets a switch with Adams on him that he's been able to take advantage of.
Wilson thought about a three. Instead, they gave off. Free throw line. Grady Dick got it.
Well, he's got game. He can pull up. His catch and shoot game is elite. You add in a strong penetration driving game, and you've got a complete offensive player.
6-point Baylor advantage. Bears with the basketball. Flagler going to work. Free throw line. And Grady Dick the rebound. Kansas in transition. This is where they thrive. Good steal there. Langston Love intercepting the pass. Flagler back to Love.
DeJuan Harris has made some drives in this game where there's nowhere for him to go. He, uncharacteristically, the last 3 games, he's had turnovers that he just didn't have prior.
McCullough, shot blocked. Bridges got him. Up and under, he blocked it again.
And both times he left the floor second. Great steal by Harris.
McCullough, that won't fall. Adams put back. That won't fall. A couple of golden scoring chances for Kansas at point-blank range and couldn't convert.
Got to feel like deja vu all over again. Kansas against TCU had so many shots around the rim that they weren't able to get down.
Love, and one.
And Langston Love is a player that Scott Drew needs more out of, and he is giving him more in this game. That was a strong drive and a finish through contact. Shoots right through 2 defenders like a running back, protects the ball, never took his eyes off the rim, and he gets a free throw bonus.
Well, folks, reminder, Thursday night right here on ESPN. College Game Day kicks off our coverage from Thompson Bowling Arena at 7 Eastern, and then it's the rivalry that elevated women's hoops to the national stage in the 90s as number 5 UConn takes on Tennessee. It's Thursday at 8 Eastern, and it's College Game Day covered by State Farm. As Langston Love knocks down the free throw, and the lead is 9 for Baylor.
Well, Langston Love has given Scott Drew great minutes in this game. Kansas going 5 out, trying to move the ball from side to side, then get downhill. Good cut by Grady Dick. Just a beautiful back cut along the baseline.
Jalen Wilson's done a good job facilitating offense and finding cutters and open passers, or I should say open players, to put it in.
Kansas, their first shot defense has been pretty good in this second half, but they need to get on the glass and limit this Baylor team to 1 shot. Now, Keontae George just got caught ball watching there, had his back to Grady Dick, and Dick, as soon as he saw his head was turned, just cut right to the basket. Wilson found him for the easy bucket. And Grady Dick in the second half has scored in a variety of ways, cutting, driving the ball, and when he gets an open shot, the ability to knock it down.
Bamba on Grady Dick as Wilson has the smaller Langston Love on him. This is MJ Rice. I think Bill Self just got teed.
He might have wanted that one. He did the same thing in the TCU game in the first half, and Kansas went on an 8-0 run.
Doug Sermons decided he had had enough. So Flagler at the line, a career 81% free throw shooter. Adam Flagler started his career at Presbyterian. Bill Self And the Jayhawks down by 8. He was the Big South Conference Freshman of the Year. And now one of the top guards in any league.
And we're seeing that more and more now with the transfer portal. That players that are big-time players on the quote-unquote lower level, that they transfer to a Power 5 school, and then they're nationally known instead of playing perhaps in anonymity.
Feed inside MJ Rice, and it's a travel.
Another good drive by Grady Dick. Caleb Lohner comes down, and a terrific job by Langston Love to rotate down and take that easy basket away from MJ Rice.
Baylor's led by as many as 13, and they've led for all but about a minute of this game.
You know, that play by Love is so significant. You know, sometimes it's not just the help, it's do you help the helper? And that's what Langston Love did on that last play. But he's really performed at a high level in this game. He missed basically all of last year, you know, with an injury.
Yep.
Had an ACL injury, but his pull-up game is good. He can shoot it to 3. And his defense has been very good in this game. LJ Cryer was going 1,000 miles an hour to make that catch. It's remarkable he could do that without walking.
Cryer gets fouled. He'll go to the line. The foul, DeWan Harris. That's his second.
And that's a shot you just don't want to foul on. You foul a jump shooter and foul him on a 2. And LJ Cryer has not been near as hot in this second half. He's got 21 points overall. But you don't want to let a hot shooter see the ball go through the net.
Fans Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. It's a must-have for Big 12 basketball fans. Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, Oklahoma, and number 11 TCU, and number 9 Kansas and number 5 Kansas State square off at Allen Fieldhouse. That's next Tuesday night, 8 Eastern. If you're a Big 12 fan, you got to have it. Sign up today, ESPN Plus.
Kansas State-Kansas rematch. That first game is entertaining as any game all year long in Manhattan in the Little Apple.
Wilson from way downtown. Well, they get a foul inside on Langston Love. That's his first.
A lot of places they call that rebounding.
Feed inside, and Wilson thought he got fouled. No call, back the other way. Baylor.
Well, there was a ton of contact there. And this has been a physical contest, but the floor is spread.
Deontay George, left hand, and he'll go to the line. They are under 8 timeout. Baylor at home, and they lead it by 10. Langston Love absorbing the contact, knocking it down, and a guy here in the second half that has made an impact for Scott Drew's team. For more on Langston Love and the Baylor Bears, here's Chris.
Boog, a year ago, he was part of that top recruiting class by Scott Drew, along with Jeremy Sohan and Kendall Brown. Those two guys are now at the NBA, and Langston Love has admitted it was difficult watching them succeed and play, and he's going through the monotonous rehab that ACL surgery can be. They said he's still close with those two, and in fact, they did Big 12, and it's nice to also have things to bounce off of what it's going to be like at the next level for him.
Crowd getting into it. The lead is a dozen.
And Baylor can be aggressive defensively. The Bears only have 3 team fouls thus far in the second half. Kansas 11. So every time Kansas fouls from here on out, it's 2 free throws.
Feed inside, Adams, point blank, couldn't convert.
And those are just deflating plays. We saw the same thing from Kansas against TCU, point blank shots. And there wasn't much contact there to cause the miss.
Cryer.
Kansas dodged one there. Nobody up to contact switch on that ball screen.
And Wilson gets bumped by Caleb Lohner.
With the job that Lohner and Love just did, that gave Flagler and Bridges a chance to get a blow for this last 7 minutes of regulation. And Jalen Bridges had a really good game. It's not that he scored a ton of points, but he's done everything else.
McCullough way off. Back to the corner, McCullough again.
And that's two wide open looks for Kansas. And usually an offensive rebound three, those are the best shots you can get.
Good hands, intercepted. McCullough out of bounds. Kansas basketball. Good hands on the defensive end by Cryer.
Really nice move, but Flagler able to just reach
Flagler
in.
that got it. .6:16 to go.
Really well read. A little elevator play by Kansas for Grady Dick, and Baylor just got right through it.
That last foul, Keontae George, his third. '15 fouls.
Pretty well defended on that little screen on the out of bounds play.
Wilson missed badly. Offensive rebound. Got to get a shot up. Harris, air ball, and it's a shot clock violation.
Well, Baylor is giving attention to Kansas's best shooters. And if DeJuan Harris, who he's been reluctant to shoot. And if they leave him open, so be it. They want to take away the main guns for Kansas, make it more difficult to have guys like Harris beat them.
Kansas 1 for their last 11 from the floor.
They've had some open ones and had some by the bucket. And those put so much pressure on your defense.
McCullough rebounds the Keontae George miss.
Settled a little bit there.
And they let Harris hear it about that last possession. Left hand wouldn't fall. George rebound.
Really good job by Jalen Bridges to make it difficult for Harris to get that shot up and over. Jalen Bridges had a really good all-around game. Here's the switch again.
Foul on Jalen Wilson. And that's his fourth.
Bridges does a good job of just keeping his body in front and then making Harris, who's really his momentum was taking him out of bounds, because Bridges did a good job of angling him out. He couldn't get in front and stop the drive altogether, but if you just angle him out a little bit, that makes it a difficult two, a tough two over a good defender. When you start thinking, Boog, about the Big 12, I mean, Kansas lost 2 in a row. They're in a difficult place to play against a really good team in Baylor. Like, where do you go in the Big 12 to get healthy?
Yeah.
You know, the schedule, it seems like it never favors you.
Wilson barrels his way to the bucket and puts it home. Jalen Wilson with 19. No, there are no safeties, right? There's no easy spots just to collect that W.
It's like the league has no bottom. It's all top and middle teams.
Cryer inside, trying to spin it home, couldn't do it.
They still had that all the way to the left, and he tried to go to the other side.
Yesufu off balance. Rebound McCullough, and he puts it home.
Kansas has to string some stops together.
George, and Yesufu has it. And Yesufu gets fouled on the floor. They get Flagler on that one. 9-point game, Baylor on top. 3:41 to go here in Waco. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Phillips 66, proud sponsor of Big 12 basketball.
Hey, Scott Van Pelt here, getting set for SportsCenter. We're going to take you through the evening in college basketball. The worst beat of the week, and I have one big thing on the Dallas Cowboys. We get you back to Waco, see if KU can get back in it. It's Boog and Billis, which sounds like a very iffy law firm, boys.
Well put.
Expensive, but iffy.
If you've been injured in an accident and looking for iffy representation, 9-point game, 3:41 to go. John Shambi, Jay Billis, Chris Button. SportsCenter with SVP coming up at the conclusion. A whiteout, full house at the Farrell Center, and Baylor has led most of the way. Wilson at the basket, puts it home. 2 more. He's got 21.
Yesufu just cleared out. That gave a right-hand drive all the way to the basket for Jalen Wilson. But right now, Kansas, who's gotten very little out of their bench. I mean, Kansas only has 2 points in bench production in this game.
Flagler, shot clock under 10. Step back. And that one tipped to Harris.
Shots are so difficult.
Good job getting back. Flagler able to intercept the pass. Now up ahead, Bridges. How about that sequence?
And one of Kansas's smarter players, DeJuan Harris, turns it over in transition. It winds up being a layup for Baylor. That's the kind of night it's been for the Jayhawks.
Grady Dick continues to take it to the basket. He has 22.
That's his 5th 20-point game on the season.
Another 2.5 to go.
And right now, Baylor cannot settle for jump shots. They've got to get something going toward the basket, put them in a position to get fouled where they can get to the foul line.
Good block, McCullough. And then he gets bumped. And they get Keontae George.
Yeah, George, I think, just trying to take away the opportunity for a layup. But that's going to put Kansas at the foul line for a 1-and-1. And Keontae George took a shot there. McCullough with the block, and then George just steps right in front. He took a shot to the face.
Oh, got him. That left arm. An official's timeout. McCullough to the line. 12 points and 12 rebounds for Kevin McCullough. Versatile player. Jay, you talked about it out front. A guy that impacts the game so many ways. At the defensive end, he's got a double-double. George forced the lead because of the blood on the jersey.
Yeah, Kevin McCullough, he's got 4 assists. He's got a couple of steals. Had that last block to get out in transition.
5-point game.
And Kansas in great position right here. They need a stop and a score, and this is a tense game for Baylor.
Timeout on the court. 2:10 to go, 5-point game. Well, this was a game between two teams that we expected it would be hard fought. John Shambi and Jay Billis. I'm Johnny's Jay. Chris Budden with us as well. But, I mean, two of the top programs in all of college basketball, and this is what you get when these two get together.
You know, you got to give Kansas a lot of credit for fighting to stay in this game. Their defense has improved in the second half. They have made Baylor into an isolation jump shooting team. And I think Baylor's got to come out of this timeout first expecting full court pressure and how to handle it and break it, if not to score. But to get down, really run something where they can get the defense moving and get into the lane. Because we've seen a lot of difficult jump shots in the second half, and it's reflected in their shooting percentage. I mean, Baylor's shooting under 40% for the game, and they're barely shooting, you know, in the low 30s in the second half. And you know, Kansas has forced them into some isolation, challenge jump shots. Some of them fall aways. But this is a big offensive possession right here for Baylor to be able to get a score and stretch this lead out, because if Kansas gets a stop, gets a score, turns it into a one-possession game, now all of a sudden you got a ton of game pressure on you going down the stretch.
Baylor seeking first back-to-back wins versus Kansas in the 44th all-time meeting. So these two teams, last few years in the Big 12, they won the last two national titles and the last three Big 12 championships. Baylor's won one outright, Kansas won outright, and they've shared one.
Here comes the run and jump, the trap.
And Baylor does well enough to get it into the front court. Under 2 to go. Langston Love, shot clock at 5. Cryer. Grady Dick trying to save it. Look out, Chris Budden.
She was in perfect position to take the charge. And that goes down to the team offensive rebound for Baylor. Now they're going to have another chance at it.
Timeout Baylor. 1:36 to go.
Really good trap by Kansas off the out of bounds underneath. Cryer was the inbounder and went to just get the ball after inbounding it for a little shoot behind, and Kansas just trapped it. And that's going to be a tough place to inbound the ball from, essentially near the corner.
Baylor 1 for their last 9 from the floor. Meanwhile, Kansas trailing by 5. Jay, they're trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak. This is Bill Self's 20th season. He has lost 3 in a row 3 times at Kansas. Pretty amazing. So trying to avoid it happening for the 4th time. And here's Kansas being down for most of the game, down right now, and yet they've shot 46%, Baylor 38%. Obviously, Baylor on the offensive glass, a big part of it.
Yeah, those percentages, but Baylor's had more shots at it because of all their offensive rebounds. Have plenty of time with about 12 seconds now to go on the shot clock.
Love going to work, hangs, and draws the contact. He'll go to the line. They get the foul on Yesufu.
Yesufu let him get to his right hand, and that was a powerful right hand drive. We've seen a couple of those from Langston Love, and you just see Yesufu threw his chest into him as he was going up for that shot. Almost got it to go in.
It's been interesting, Jay, when Baylor has needed points here in this second half. You know, we talk so much about Flagler and Cryer and the prize freshman Keontae George, but they put the ball in the hands of this guy and let him go one-on-one at times.
He's made some big plays. And you mentioned that one of their last 9. I think the one was that turnover by DeJuan Harris and the basket the other way by Jalen Bridges.
Wilson off the glass and good. 23 points for Jalen Wilson. McCullough and Yesufu trying to trap. And Love able to get it into the front court. A minute to go. 5-point game.
And all these Baylor guards are good free throw shooters. There's another right-hand drive.
Last one tipped. Bridges gets fouled.
Boog, this game has basically been about Kansas's inability to secure a defensive rebound. You know, their first shot defense has been pretty good at times, and especially in the second half, but they just can't seem to corral a defensive board. And it's been offensive rebound after offensive rebound for the Baylor Bears.
And again, it's a thread over the time that Scott Drew has been here. The last 9 straight years, they've ranked in the top 13 in the entire country in offensive rebound percentage. They've had guys like Mark Vital, Rico Gathers, Jonathan Chamo-Chachua, a brilliant offensive rebounder. So on and on, it's something that Scott Drew's team has done a good job coaching, teaching, and recruiting players that are good at it.
And this year, they don't have that kind of size, but because they shoot so many perimeter shots, they're longer rebounds. And so those guards are getting in on the act too.
Wilson needs some help. Grady Dick from deep. Bridges the rebound. McCullough fouls him. 22.8 to go. And it's Baylor leading this one by 6.
Baylor has really gutted it out in this second half. It hasn't been the prettiest offensive game in the second half for Baylor, but their work on the glass, they just hung in there. And to limit this Kansas team to under 70, pretty impressive.
Jalen Bridges, 9 points, 9 rebounds for the transfer from West Virginia.
He was spectacular late in the game against Oklahoma in a game 62-60, something like that. Made those big threes, and you know, he's played a complete game in this one.
Eight-point game, Wilson. And Doug Sermon says foul on the floor. They get L.J. Cryer, and it'll be a 1-and-1 spot for Grady Dick.
Well, late in the game in this situation, Scott Drew's telling his team no threes and no fouls.
Yeah.
And you certainly wanted to take away the 3 from Grady Dick. You just don't want to pick up the foul where they can score a couple of points, and then you've got the ability to set up full court pressure with no time going off the clock. You know, it's funny, Boog, at this time last year, you know, I don't know how many people thought Kansas was a true national title contender. You knew that they were a top 10, top 15 team in January. But I don't know how many hands went up when you said, hey, you know, is Kansas among the 6 or 7 teams you think that could win it? And ultimately, they continued to get better, and they did win it. There's still a lot of time left in this season, and they're going to keep going back to the laboratory and working to get better. The results don't seem like it, but this league is so tough.
(75-69) your final. Baylor knocks off Kansas. As we take a look at our player of the game, brought to you by Phillips 60, 19 in the first half, finished with 22.
Well, Cryer hit those 5 threes. He was 5 of 11 from the game, 8 of 16 overall, 19 in the first half. But what a gutty win, especially to gut out a second half where they didn't perform offensively at the level they wanted. A great win for Baylor.
Good crowd physical affair here in the best conference in college basketball. 75-69. Baylor wins it. For Chris Budd and Jay Billis and our entire outstanding crew, I'm John Shambi saying thanks so much for joining us here in Waco. For the Iffy law firm of Billis and Boog. See you later. Let's send it to SportsCenter.
It's